how have you seen virtual welding implemented into a classroom?
So down here in Arizona, as far as my knowledge goes, is I'm one of the few that do have it implemented in the classroom, and I have, spoken with other instructors and have had a lot of questions regarding that. I mean, implementing it, I start off with my beginning classes, because what I found is I've tried some of my intermediate and advanced classes, and they tend to not like it as much because they've already had the hands-on live welding out in the shop. And it is a little bit more difficult than, actual welding. So I found it best to start off with my beginning level classes, where a lot of those kids have never welded before, so they don't know the difference in between, live and virtual. So it's definitely helped them as they've started off with something harder, and then when they get out into the shop, it's a lot easier for them when it comes to the live application of it.
Thanks. And Chris, you've been in several classrooms. How have you seen it implemented?
Definitely, like Kenton said, is it's a great tool and utility to bring in new students to get them started with the basics of welding. It eliminates some of the fear factor that goes into getting them out on a real machine where they're dealing with the heat, the sparks, the fumes. But it's a great resource to have just in that safe classroom environment that's going to teach them all those core functions of welding and give them that immediate feedback as well that they're looking for. So just like you said, it's a great beginning tool to use for any of those new kids coming in.
I know for me, I've seen it for the beginner, and maybe Kenton, you can talk a little bit about this too, but one of the things I've seen a lot too is kind of setting a standard where a lot of the students will have to pass certain percentages on the reports and things of that nature to be able to kind of graduate into the lab. I don't know if you do that or not, but or there's certain safety things that you have to do and things of that nature. I've seen it for older classes, your advanced welding classes as a review piece where they'd have to start the year with kind of some of that review knowledge and kind of getting back into the welding, understanding after a summer off or things like that. But I don't know if you do that at all or anything in your classroom, Kenton, or not. But
yeah. So the one thing I did like is, it does come with your standard WPSs that are kind of standard with the machine. So being able to go in there and make your own WPSs, is which I have towards, geared towards what my curriculum is and what I want my students to learn, I was able to go in, create, I've created, I think, 9 separate WPSs that the students have to go through and hit at an 80% or higher before they can move on to the next WPS. And then once they've finished, and hit that mark in the classroom, then I also have the guideWELD, live guideWELD through you guys, and then they go out and use those with the actual hands-on weld. So.
And that's kind of that thing too, with one of the things that I like about, and a lot of instructors have said about this too, is with that WPS or the welding procedure specification, by having that, it's kind of that standard that says, yeah, you could do a weld and it looks nice, but you have to actually make sure that it passes the standard that AWS or whatever organization you're working with, they have actually set. So it's kind of that outside entity coming back in, kind of sharing that, saying, yep, it's great if you can do it, but you got to make sure you pass the standard. So that's where I've seen it and liking that. And you're right, I get a lot of that too from educators of saying, we have the standard WPSs, but we also have our own welding procedures that we actually implement into the software, and we can do that too. So I've seen that as well. Mm-hmm.